You're listening to The Latino Nerd. Uncut, uncensored, unfiltered. Get dirty and keep it nerdy.
On June 14th, 2015, sheriff's deputies in Greene County, Missouri, found the body of Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard face down in the bedroom of her house just outside of Springfield, lying on the bed in a pool of blood from stab wounds inflicted several days earlier. There was no sign of her daughter Gypsy Rose, who, according to Blanchard, suffered from leukemia, asthma, muscular dystrophy, along with several other chronic conditions, and had the mental capacity of a 7-year-old due to brain damage she had suffered as a result of her premature birth. Today, on the Blatino Nerd, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a true crime episode. This episode is all about the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard. And joining me are three very, very special guests. First up, we have returning to the Blatino Nerd. You may remember her from our Chadwick Boseman episode, host of the Mad Mags podcast, Maggie
That's me.
Oz. How goes it, Mags?
It's going, right? I just turned 30, so everything's going horrible.
Happy birthday, girly.
Thanks.
Also returning to the Blatino Nerd, who at this point I should probably just make a co-host. My partner in all things Blatino. Welcome back, Jenn Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. I should be back.
You should.
Maybe a co-host.
Blatinos from a couch. And also joining me is the host of the True Crime Stories Told YouTube channel, Lori Stuart. How are you, Lori?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And like I said, this is a different episode of the Blatino Nerd than you guys might be used to, because no gaming here, none of my usual topics. We're just going to talk a good old-fashioned American murder story. With all respects to FX. So this is all about the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard by the hands of her own daughter, Gypsy Rose, and Gypsy's boyfriend, Nicholas Godejean, who is currently
freaking creep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
no, I'm not judging kinks. Like, you can be in what you want to be into, but like, he was freaking weird. Okay.
Yeah, this is true. And on this episode, we're basically going to get into the actual murder itself, Dee Dee Blanchard's upbringing, which obviously played a lot into how she treated Gypsy, the act itself, and basically we're going to talk more about whether this was just a case of an abused child trying to get away, or was this karma for a long, shady past? Hopefully by the end of this episode, you guys will be able to determine for yourselves. So I guess I'm going to start really with the upbringing of Dee Dee, which is definitely worth noting, because it wasn't easy, and she wasn't the most well-behaved child in the world.
That's a light version.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to speak, I don't want to speak ill of the, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but so Dee Dee Blanchard was born in Chack Bay, Louisiana in 1967. And she grew up with her family in Golden Meadow. She was the daughter of Claude and Emma. She also had 5 siblings: Claude, Claudia, Evans, Dorla, and Todd. A lot of Claudes being thrown around in there.
Must be a family name.
A family of Claudes.
So wait a minute,
And-
you're saying there was a Claude, a Claudia, and a Claudine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Just clarifying.
And
I just got to keep them straight,
and her father was also a Claude.
with Claude. Okay.
He's also
Is there a junior involved? Was there like
Yes,
a
there was
junior?
a
Or they
Cla-
changed
Yeah.
the middle name? So
there's a
okay.
Claude Jr. Yep. So it's Claude Sr., Claude Jr., Claudia, Claudine, Evans, Dorla, and Todd.
Wait, Evans what?
Evans and Dorla.
Dorla.
Dorla?
Dorla.
Dorla.
Can you spell
Really?
that for me?
Dorla.
Dorla. Okay, I've never heard that ever in my life. I'm just
Me
yeah.
either. I've also never heard of someone just being Evans. Like Evan is fine, but Evans.
Yeah, Evans with an S now.
Yeah, I feel like you're going the extra mile there. Like
I mean, only in Louisiana.
now, you know what? My next kid, she's gonna be named Jordans. Male or female? Jordans.
Jordans. What's your name? Jordans.
Jordan?
Jordans.
No, Jordans. Plural.
And you gotta do at the end.
Jordans. But
Are you gonna spell it with a Z or an A or with an S? Because there's a you gotta know
no
in
one's
advance.
gonna know my kid is a badass unless it's spelled with a Z.
Exactly.
Would Limp Bizkit have been as badass if they were Biskit? I think not.
No, but they would have been better without what's his face in it.
Very true. But that's a later episode. No, that's a later episode for the repeat. I think we lost Lori. I'm sure she'll be back. So, yep, there she goes. So
I was like, yeah, like my Wi-Fi was like, and I was like, no.
during her childhood, Dee Dee was a klepto of sorts, and she would often steal as a means of retaliation whenever something didn't go her way. So she would.
I am back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome back. She kind of would just like steal just for the hell of it. Like she lost an argument. Someone got, she was grounded. She would steal. That was just kind of her thing. And it's also widely believed that she may or may not have killed her mother in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's she starved her mother. According to the rest of the family, she starved her mom. And she also would she is also suspected that she poisoned her stepmother by putting Roundup in her food.
Roundup.
Roundup.
Wow.
Who's
She
she,
would mix
Chucky?
Yeah, she'd mix
Yeah.
Roundup in the food.
Whew.
Don't eat the chili. Just saying, it's not Parmesan cheese on
It's not
top.
good. Not good.
Like this food tastes a little pesky.
Tastes a little weird.
It's a little funny.
Is that oregano? What is that?
Roundup.
Maybe she's bored with it. Maybe it's Roundup.
Oh my god.
That
So-
needs to be on a t-shirt. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Roundup.
Maybe it's Roundup. So, moving on. When she was 24 years old, she became pregnant by Rod, who was actually just 17 years old at the time. And they
Neither
named
Dee Dee.
so they named her Gypsy because Claudine liked the name, and Rod was a really, really big Guns N' Roses fan. So ended up with Gypsy Rose, which that's what the late 80s. Yeah, everybody
Oh,
knows
okay.
the Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Wait, Axl Rose was still on his first face by then, right? Like,
Jesus, first face.
just saying, he had like 7.
It's like the Michael Jackson of heavy metal.
Exactly.
Yeah, but later on, and actually in 2017, Rod said he got married for the wrong reasons, and I'm like, oh well, marrying a 24-year-old at 17 is definitely a wrong reason. But
That's Southern for my mama made me do it, and now I don't want to be here.
But yeah, after everything went awry with Rod, she was staying with her dad and stepmom for a time, and that's when the whole thing with the roundup happened, and her stepmom was often really, really sick. And strangely enough, after they finally put Dee Dee out, her stepmom got better out of nowhere.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, like her health magically returned. And I believe Gypsy was still like a baby when Dee Dee and Rod divorced or separated. I don't know if they ever actually divorced. But when Gypsy was 3 months old, Dee Dee was convinced that she had sleep apnea.
A baby?
Yep, at 3 months old.
Okay.
And that kind of is that's kind of what set this whole thing in motion, because for those of you who don't know about the case, Dee Dee Blanchard had Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So basically, she was making up sickness, like ailments that weren't there. And when you have Munchausen's, you want your child or those close to you to be sick, so they have a reason to need you.
Right.
And with everything going on with Dee Dee, I think that's part of what led to her treatment of Gypsy, because again, at 3 months old, she was convinced her pretty much still newborn baby had sleep apnea.
Could you imagine if Dee Dee was still alive and had a child right now? She'd be like, oh, she has COVID. Like,
oh, God.
It would be horrible.
That would be awful. Jesus. And yeah, so she would take Gypsy to the hospital, and she would constantly be there overnight, sleep monitors. And no matter how many times she went, they never found any kind of evidence of anything. So then after that, Dee Dee later became convinced that Gypsy had a bunch of different health issues, which she attributed to some sort of chromosomal disorder. So she was determined to find something wrong with Gypsy, even there was no evidence of it.
But she did, and I got to give it to her in that sense, because she really did her research, because she already was already in, if I'm not mistaken, she was a nurse, or she was she had some kind of knowledge in the medical field in some way or another. And I really got to give it to her, because she really did her research, and she really went in and she convinced, and she was just so convinced. She convinced herself. She convinced her family. She convinced thousands of people who donated to give, to build the house for the car, when the car, then when the minivan went to crap, they got a car that was similar. You know what I'm saying? All of these things, as whatever came before that led up to this, I gotta give her props in that sense. Damn, lady, you really did so much research that you went far and beyond for this lie that to you was not a lie, but it was a lie nonetheless. So I really do. I gotta give it to her in that aspect, because I'm like, damn, sis, you really went through. She said, if I'm a lie, I'm a lie hard, and I'm like, damn. I don't got time. I'm tired.
Right.
That's too much.
Right.
Especially medical stuff that a lot of people, and I think it's that some people just take the word of a mother and they just like,
Right.
oh, whatever, like, you know. So it was very interesting reading that part of her life and that, you know, in that aspect. But
right.
Other than that, she wild.
And yeah, it just that to think. And I think not only was it just the Munchausens, but I think there was definitely some kind of mental mental disorder or something going on there. Because like she wasn't a nurse's aide that long, but the fact that she was able to retain so much and working with different types of people, that like she could detect this, and like if Gypsy so much.
But just imagine that if she didn't do that, like if she could have just been like a decent human being, and she would have been a great nurse. She could have been a doctor.
Yep.
Like I don't know.
And like yeah, it was like if Gypsy like so much as like blinked wrong, Dee Dee would just be like, oh okay, well it's this, and
now she's blind.
Yeah, pretty much. And so when Gypsy was about 7 or 8, she was riding on like her grandfather's motorcycle, and they had like a minor accident, nothing huge. I think the only thing Gypsy got out of it, she got like a scrape on the knee, and then like Dee Dee, Dee Dee pretty much was like, oh, this is going to require surgery and all this other stuff. And Gypsy, who for reasons unknown was already in a walker at 7 years old, now was confined to a wheelchair because of a scrape on her knee that Dee Dee somehow thought meant her leg was broken or that something wasn't right. You know, a scrape on the knee is nothing to us, but for someone like Dee Dee Blanchard, that was like, holy shit, what happens now?
Right.
And so basically later on, it was around like 2001 or so, Dee Dee started taking Gypsy to compete in the Special Olympics events. Not really compete, but like as a spectator. And she would often claim that Gypsy was 6 or 7, when in all actuality, Gypsy was probably about 11. And she started taking in, they started taking in donations. The Make-A-Wish Foundation was involved. At this point, Gypsy was already like a local celebrity, because here's a kid that the entire town thinks that she's like eternally cursed because she seems to be sick.
Right.
She seems to be sick every other week or every other day. And what's crazy to me is that apparently, like according to school records, Gypsy hadn't been to school since about 2nd grade. Yep, Gypsy hadn't been to school. Yeah, Gypsy hadn't been to school in about 2nd grade, and she apparently learned to read entirely by reading Harry Potter books.
That still makes me mad at J.K. Rowling. So.
Yeah. J.K. herself may be canceled.
Yeah, she can suck it.
Yeah. Welcome back, Lori. We're all really mad at. We're all really mad
at because, as I have my tattoo here, but she is cancer.
Yeah. We're all really mad at J.K. Rowling, but we're all really thankful for Harry Potter.
Yes.
Right. an internal struggle.
Harry Potter is ours, period. Like, yeah, she gave us this world, but Harry Potter is ours.
We took it.
If there's anything 2020 has taught me is that all of our favorites are problematic.
That's very true.
Except Johnny Depp.
Especially Warner Brothers. Johnny Depp is an angel.
Oh, I can do an episode alone on the shady shit that Warner Brothers has done to like all of its actors this year.
In the name of morality.
Seriously,
Fuck
like
them.
Just
Sorry, it's still heavy on my heart.
No, going off the rails for a bit, like I was really, really excited for it, but like after hearing how badly Warner Brothers treated Ray Fisher, I don't even want to watch the Zack Snyder Justice League cut anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was so excited for it, but like to hear Ray Fisher and even Jason Momoa like chime in and was like, yeah, they're all pretty much a bunch of scumbags. And I'm like, because unpopular.
Right, and if Jason Momoa tells you you're a scumbag, you're a scumbag.
You're a scumbag because Jason Momoa is such a gentle soul. And
he's such a puppy.
He is. I met him. He's sweet.
So unpopular opinion for you guys watching at home, but I enjoy the Justice League movie for what it is. It's certainly not the worst superhero movie in the world, and it's also not the greatest. But
it's a schmedium.
How did we get from murder to superhero?
This always happens. This show goes off the rails every episode, Jen.
I know it happens, but like I know. But like sometimes I just like my brain like shut down for like literally 2 seconds, and I'm like, why are we talking about Harry Potter? But I'm like, you know what? I ain't gonna question it.
It's Gypsy's fault. Okay. She's the one that learned how to read to Harry Potter.
That's right, yeah, because of Gypsy learning to read because of Harry Potter.
This is true. I forgot about that little fact.
Right. But yeah. So Gypsy learned to read through the Harry Potter books, and her dad ended up remarrying, so they did in fact divorce. And Dee Dee was constantly in trouble. I mean, she was writing bad checks. She the other members of her family would often confront her about her treatment of Gypsy. And after, the final confrontation, she kind of just took Gypsy and moved to, I believe, Slidell. I'm sorry, people of Louisiana, not 100% on how to pronounce that.
That's the worst city in Louisiana to pronounce, just saying.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Dee Dee like run up like pretty much fraudulent checks under her mom's name and stuff like that?
She did.
Yeah, like her mom was dead and she was just like, I'm gonna just write these checks out here, and I'm like, girl.
I may have made or not killed her, but I'm gonna write these checks. Like, who are you, Frank from friggin' Shameless? Like, what's wrong with you?
That's crazy.
Like, this check is from Jake from State Farm.
Jake from State Farm.
I know my Dominican mother. If I ever did that, if my mom was dead, and if I ever did that, I know my mother's Dominican soul will literally come and haunt me for the rest of my days. Okay?
The chancla from beyond the grave.
Oh my God, that should be a T-shirt for the Latino nerd for this episode. Do it.
Yeah.
Zombie chancla.
Beyond the grave.
Yeah, again, unrelated. I gotta say, my mom is like Clint Eastwood with the chancla. When I got in trouble, my mom would just come home and be like, "Do you feel lucky? Do you, punk?"
I swear. My mom is the most like Latino white woman I've ever met in my entire
Jesus.
life. Like she is so ethnic and she's pasty as fuck. I don't because like she threatened me with wooden spoons, with like flip flops, and we would have the best food. Everyone's like, oh, white people don't season their food. They don't have seasonings. I'm like, I have a whole closet full of seasonings. What's wrong with you?
I once randomly, when I was in high school, I once randomly got hit in the head with a flip flop during gym, and was
your mom was there,
and was terrified that like my mom was here. Like, I guess someone had lost a shoe or was throwing a shoe at someone else, and it hit me, and I immediately went,
"Mom."
I was like, damn. I was like, either she's in the building or she has somehow managed to boomerang the chancla from home. She's going to Captain America status. But anyway, back to the subject at hand.
Back to the murder.
So Gypsy, and after they made it to Slidell, I'm gonna say it's Slidell. Slidell makes sense to me.
Okay.
They basically were living in public housing, and they lived off of all the donations that Dee Dee was getting off of Gypsy. And she would go take her to all these different specialists, and it went from minor headaches to Gypsy needing a muscle biopsy and
God,
hearing and vision problems.
She had no chill. Like there was. How does that transition go? Woo! I don't know.
I think they were also affected by Katrina. And
that's what they claim. They claimed that they were. I never saw where it was like for sure that they were.
Yeah, they their apartment was hit by Katrina, and Dee Dee and Gypsy went to a shelter for special needs children. Yeah.
I mean, she was born in Louisiana, right? Dee Dee was.
Mm-hmm.
She was born in Louisiana.
Yeah, so she probably was still there before they moved to Missouri. So them being in Katrina, it does make sense, but whether it's factual, I'm not sure.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the details on that are like still really like murky.
Right.
Because I know they also when they first got to Missouri, they moved to Aurora, I believe. How far is that from you, Maggie? Maggie's in Missouri, so I ask.
But yeah, is probably, if it's near Kansas City, probably like a good 5 hours.
You're 5 hours away from KC?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think.
I didn't realize
depending on what highway you take.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, by then Gypsy was already on like different feeding tubes. She had a bunch of surgeries that she didn't need, and she somehow had even finessed Habitat for Humanity. They built her. Yeah, I'm saying finessed. It is what it is. They built her a home with a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub.
That grinds my gears, like literally. Like people need things, and she's here scamming FEMA. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
She also at that point had changed her name to separate herself from the rest of the family. She then adopted the name Claudinia Blanchard, which then becomes Dee Dee.
Okay. Okay. She goes from Claudine to Claudinia. That's creative.
Right? This is wild, and I think that's
epic.
And I think that's why I enjoyed this case so much, because of
the name change.
The more you hear, the wilder it gets.
All right.
That's like me changing my name from Lori to Laurie. Like it's not that big of a difference. No, I don't know who I am. My name is Laurie. Oh God.
Is Lori here? No.
No, Lori is not here, but
Lori
Lari
is here.
Lori is in effect.
She looks like Lori, but it's not her.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, but that's Lori right there. But can you prove it?
It's like somebody saying, "Oh, so what's your name?" I'm gonna be like, "It's not Jennifer." Then what does a Jen stand for? It's for Gwennifer.
Okay, so no lie, I once introduced myself as Jordy, and they go, "What's Jordy short for?" And I was like, Jennifer LaDaniston, duh. I'm like,
Wow.
No.
I'm like, it's Jordy. It's just, that's all it is. And they go, "Your mom named you Jordy?" And I was like,
They're like, yeah, she had some really good drugs. What do you mean?
I didn't. And then I go, "It's Jordan. Jordy is short for Jordan. I just took, I added a Y and took away the AN. It's really not that hard to figure out." I mean,
You
unless
baffled us.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like my mom. Like everyone calls my mom Mimi, and they go, "Well, what's Mimi short for?" And I'm like, nothing, because her real name doesn't even have an M or an I in it." And then they go, "What's your mom's name?" I'm like, "My mom's name is Elbita," and I'm like, "Mimi." I only call my mom by her real name when I want to be annoying and I need something.
Mm-hmm.
I call her any other time, I'm like, "Elbita." Like any other time she calls, I'm like, "Mom," and I'll call him like, "Elbita." I'll go, "LB," and she goes, "What? What do you want?" And I'm like,
"What do you need?"
Yeah, exactly. That's the benefit of being the favorite child.
Favorite child.
I am. I'm an only boy, and I've got like 6 sisters. And I am my mom's favorite. And I know my sisters are watching. They can say it all they want, but we all know that I am the favorite.
No, it's not that you're the favorite. It's that you're the baby. You're the baby boy. You're the baby boy.
I'm not. I'm actually the middle. I'm the middle child. There's 3 after
you're
me.
You're the baby boy.
You're
the baby boys.
I have three sisters before me. There's 3 sisters before me, then me, and then 3 after.
Fucking dying, man.
And then my mom was a foster parent, so I have a slew of. I don't call them foster siblings. They're my siblings.
Right.
So if I count all of them, there's like 13.
Have you ever watched Donald Glover's stand-up where he talks about his foster cousins and stuff?
Yep.
So funny.
That's
just what that reminded me of, and I'm just like, did you make him some more? Like,
no, my you know what's funny? Like
take him to Home Depot, Jordan.
Growing up, it was like, even with all the different siblings, I still somehow managed to be like the black sheep of the family. It's like, you think there would be at least one of my siblings would share my personality traits, because there's like 11 of them. Only one of my siblings is similar to me. One. The rest of them, if you met my family and you'd look at me and like, "Are you sure you're not adopted?" My saving grace is that I probably look the most like my mother out of all of her children. Like, if if my mom was sitting right here next to me, like, you guys would be like, "Yeah, okay, I see it." Except, last I checked, I have more facial hair, but I haven't seen my mom in a few weeks, so I don't know.
Oh, she's gonna get you. She's gonna slap you with that boomerang.
It's all in good fun. She was here last week, and she called me fat and ugly, so I had to get her back.
Damn. Mama savage.
Oh, I love Mimi. And my mom doesn't know. My mom didn't have to lie to, get me hooked up with all kind of cool shit as a kid. She just had to go buy it.
I mean, that's a real mom.
I actually have asthma and arthritis. My mother didn't have to make up the. My mental illness is real.
That's why we're all here. Our mental illness
Not
is
even
real.
made up.
Yeah, I
You didn't have to make it up. Can't make this shit up.
This is the most behaving my hair has ever been. It's like sat straight up, like perfectly, like not even the headphones are like. I just happened to catch myself on camera just now, and I'm like, oh, rock a little harder now.
He's like, oh.
Anyway.
New hair, who is?
Again, going off the rails again.
Well, Jordan, you know what I just thought of is what year was the murder?
It was actually just 5 years ago.
Was it? Yeah, 2015, right?
2015.
2015. Okay. And then she was sentenced in, I want to say it was just shortly after that, probably. Was it 2015? Wait, 2015?
Gypsy was sentenced in
probably like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah, roughly. It may not have even been that.
Yeah, I think they really rushed her sentencing.
Yeah, they found Dee Dee. They found Dee Dee in June 2015.
It was by 2016. It was by 2016 because it almost like a year later, she had pleaded guilty, if I'm not mistaken.
She's actually up for parole very soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, she only got 10 years. She only got 10 years. So in 10 years, she'll be out.
My thing is like,
which is like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Or no, 7 years from now.
7.
Yeah.
But my thing is, see, I have mixed feelings about the sentencing itself because, I mean, granted, she did orchestrate that whole thing, but like, I still feel like it was a little unfair.
It was like the whole Betty Broderick thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It just I don't want to say that I feel like Dee Dee Blanchard deserved it.
No,
because that's heartless. That's a little heartless for me to say. But in the token, it's like, I mean, you abuse this. Like, it's abuse, is what.
Right.
Well, don't feel bad. Everybody has their boiling point. I mean, like if you want to say that this woman deserved it, you just don't say it out loud. You may feel that way, but it, like I said, everybody has their point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like you said, you don't know if it's karma or if it's, like I do not believe that Gypsy Rose was a cold-hearted killer.
No, absolutely.
Oh no, not at all.
So at what point do you make that transition to seriously putting your mind and putting yourself in the mind of Gypsy Rose for 1 minute and thinking, okay, I've been isolated my entire childhood, absolutely 100%,
right.
And completely mentally and emotionally and physically abused by this woman.
Yep.
Maybe she did deserve it. I don't know.
But
I don't know.
I think, it's a tough call because, and I feel like she's definitely not a like cold-blooded killer, and fortunately, in her favor, the media didn't paint her as that either.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, poor Nicholas, on the other hand, from the time he got put in handcuffs, they called him every name they could think of. But I think in the case of both of them, Gypsy just wanted an outlet or just wanted an out.
She wanted out, yeah.
And Nick was just so enamored with Gypsy that it was like him being enamored kind of teetered on, like he was just very, very easily manipulated.
Right. Which happens a lot in those types of relationships.
And his mom I think his mom
meet and they need it out.
And I think his mom had confirmed that he was autistic as well.
Right.
So, you know,
I
and
was
I'm not saying
about that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that, like, you know, being autistic is going to lead into, you know, killing, you know, committing murder. But they're so young, and you know, I think his mom was just saying that, like, his developmental age, like, he might be this age, but he was definitely, like, mentally, he was not this certain age, which, you know, it sucks because, like, he thinks he's found the love of his life, and, you know, and Gypsy Rose thought that, like, you know, she was finding it out, and she was in love with him. Like, I'm not saying that she didn't. She truly loved him. It's just she also found this out as an out, and then she boiled over. So, like, was it wild the way she went about it? Sure, absolutely. But do I blame her? Hell no. I mean, you spending your whole entire life up until that point being controlled. Literally, that woman had an iron fist of control over her. So, like, to be quite honest, I don't blame her, but, like, could there maybe have been another possibility? I don't know, maybe. But Gypsy saw it as that was her out, period.
And another thing about that trial is, again, fortunately for Gypsy, they never painted her as, like, this monster, but in the same token, they did for Nick. I mean, you could see from the beginning that something wasn't right with Nick.
Right.
Like, what was different about Nick that he wasn't offered, like, the same kind of treatment that they offered Gypsy? Was it because he was not being abused?
Or that you know of, like, that he was willing to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, abuse plays a big part, especially in a trial. I've seen it a million times. If a person, you know, goes out and kills 15 people in a McDonald's, but yet they find them to have been, you know, sexually abused or physically abused, it doesn't really have a lot to do with their, how do I say it? It has a lot to do with kind of like their sentencing, like the final thing of what's going to happen.
Right.
Nobody's going to kill anybody. You know, they're not going to, you know, push for the death penalty if this person was abused their entire life, as opposed to somebody who isn't. You know, it just, yeah. So that's it. That's it basically. I mean, like, it does play a big part in what's going to happen to them.
Right. Absolutely.
But Gypsy only got what, 2nd degree murder? Yeah, I think she got 2nd degree.
Yeah, she got 2nd degree. She pleaded guilty for 2nd degree, and Godejohn, he got first degree murder, and he got sentenced to, like, life.
Yeah, I think he got 1st degree murder and armed action.
What is armed action?
Is that because he did the action? Like, he's the one that
and
shot her?
he had the weapon or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Armed action.
It's because he actually committed the crime.
Yeah, he's the one who
she was the one who planned the murder. So, you know, it was like the attempt, what's the term? It's in my textbooks. We're just learning about this. But it's just literally like attempt, you know, like pretty much like you're planning with the attempt
premeditated.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm just like, what is it? I'm over here thinking of the definition, but not.
Yeah, in a lot of states, I'm not sure if Missouri's one, but in a lot of states, you have to show premeditation for them to get 1st degree murder. If you can't show premeditation, they cannot be charged with 1st degree. So obviously he's the one that planned the whole thing out. I mean, if he got 1st degree murder, you know, I mean, that's what that tells me.
Right. Exactly. Like he was within mind, and they're not going to say like, oh, he wasn't of right mind. No, he was of right mind. He understood what he was doing, type of thing. They have to, again, I don't know a lot about the laws of, you know, Missouri and whatnot, but you have to, more often than not, you do, like Lori said, you do have to.
Yeah, that's in a lot of states. They vary by state.
Or they call it something else, but it's literally the same thing, type of thing. So.
It's the same thing, yeah.
And like,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know I'm confused as everybody else. You know, when it comes to Gypsy.
The actual details.
Yep.
I mean, here's a girl who, in all actuality, just wanted some semblance of normal in her life.
Right.
This was a girl who was fed meds until she lost all her hair to the people, like to the point where people thought she had cancer. I mean, she was still getting fed Pedialyte in her 20s. Like that's insane to me.
Okay, but let's not throw out the Pedialyte being an option for hangovers.
It is pretty good for hangovers.
What?
It is.
I don't want to
to
throw anyone under the bus that's like over a certain age that still is drinking Pedialyte. Like it's okay.
And it's crazy because
not for dinner.
Yeah, just don't have it with your dinner. Like
when I was like looking more into this case and whatnot, it was just like, again, different sources were saying different things, but like I was saying, like I was watching the Hulu documentary, and the way it made it seem like Dee Dee shaved off Gypsy Rose's hair because she was like, oh, you're gonna lose your hair because you have leukemia, so we might as well just keep it nice and neat. And then so you're not only doing that, but you're also giving her medication that she doesn't need. All her teeth are gone pretty much.
Right.
Like she's losing her teeth. She's a young girl, like, you know, and like one of her really good friends, I forgot her last name, but her name is Aaliyah, you know, she was like, we were like sisters, and again, I didn't even know all of this was going on. And then and you know, and then she starts saying, oh, then she had to make a different account, like the whole Facebook account. The fact that they were having a joint account is just shows you how much control Dee Dee had over everything. And then like also just taking all you know, just going back and just saying how they went to Disney World because of, you know, she had cancer and all that stuff, and they were like, oh well, here is like, what is it, the Make-A-Wish Foundation? Yeah, that. So so it was just insane that they got to do all of these things, and essentially Dee Dee didn't have to spend a freaking dime, and it was just because people felt sorry, and she fed off of that pity, which is wild. That's just so wild to me.
And it's so crazy to me that like you never know what goes on behind closed doors. It's like here is what you think is a sick child, and all actuality is like a 19, 20-year-old woman who's constantly being subjected. I think I read somewhere that like whenever they were out in public, Dee Dee insisted on always holding her hand. And if she saw Gypsy doing anything that like even remotely viewed as an act of defiance, first she would like squeeze Gypsy's hand really tightly, which was like a means, which was both a means of saying stop and like a warning of things to come, because then they would go home and Dee Dee would beat her.
Right.
And I also read somewhere that like she had Gypsy's saliva glands treated with Botox to like control her drooling. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, and two, there's no way that can be safe.
She even had her she had like a surgery to like stop her from throwing up too, like like to just stop her from having like gag reflexes and her just like essentially throwing up. And I'm just like, dang girl, what you doing this to your kid? Like your child. Like this is like trying to fake leukemia is wild in itself, because now you're exposing your child to chemo. Right. And on top of that, you're having them unnecessary surgeries that this kid definitely does not need, and she's healthy. And then you're saying that her muscles are like pretty much are like, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I have it in my head, but I can't even think. But her muscles are like essentially like deteriorating. There you go. And but you take her to the doctors, and the doctor's like, her muscle mass is okay.
Yeah.
Like, she's fine. And then you'll get angry when the doctors will tell you otherwise. You know, like, will tell you that, you know, otherwise of what they would say. And she's like, I'm never coming here. And then she'll go to another doctor who, in a lack of a better word, she'll take them as freaking pendejos, and they'll just go along with it. And I'm just like, they really were. And then, like, finally there was doctors that are trying to, you know, and then not only that, she blames the lack of missing files on Katrina, because everything that happened in Katrina, which, I mean, lady, kudos to you for like having this. Again, this goes back into how much of an elaborate plan she did to like mask that she was essentially wild as hell. And and I don't want to badmouth the dead, but damn, lady, like, do you like you in one way or another, something was going to come at you. And unfortunately, it was in the form of the one person that you thought was never going to break your heart because you had a tight control on them. And she came and went ahead and elaborated this plan with her boyfriend. And you got that bow, 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 and you're dead.
Right.
It's like 1 second she was alive, and now she dead. I hate me for saying it that way, so like nonchalant and flippant, but like it's the truth. It's just like, oh, 1 second she's alive.
It's what happened. It's
then she dead.
Exactly.
And then like I'm like, ooh, and I ooh. And that's literally what I say when I ooh. Because like everything started coming out. I was already a few years after like I had graduated high school, so I'm over here like, oh dang, Gigi, and I was like, Gigi. I was like, Gypsy, snap, bro.
Gigi, that's her name. That's her name now, Gigi.
Gigi snapped. And I was like, ooh. And then when you started reading more into the case, you're like, well, damn, she got every right to have freaking snap.
Right.
And it's just like, and a Gypsy, I mean, again, it's depending on the person and what they think. It's just like, was she saying on TV now, is it true or not? Do you guys believe that she had remorse or that she didn't? And I quite frankly, she said it before. She's like, I don't believe. Yeah, I think she has remorse because she's like, it's not like I like the fact that my mom is dead, but I'm out of the situation now because she's dead.
Exactly.
And it's just kind of like, it sounds very, I don't know, it sounds very crude or what have you, but it's the honest truth. She's out of the situation. Right, she's out of the situation, and yeah, she's out of, she's gonna be up for parole in like what, in 2024, I think it is. And so like, from there on forward, you're just gonna be like, okay, well, maybe I get to kind of live a normal life after now because I get to be free, get to be whatever. She's gonna be like in her early 30s or something like that by the time she gets out. So like, I get to do that. She gets to do that, and so, but it's true. Even if her mom was alive now, and like Gigi, jeez,
she would have never got out.
She would have never gotten out.
Gigi is her name now.
Yeah, because then her mom, if like let's say if Dee Dee was alive and then Gigi would have done something, I don't know.
Right.
What it's I don't know. Either way, I just still like, I get why she did it. Because it was the best possible situation that could get her out of this control. And unfortunately, it was through lies and everything got exposed. And I'm like, and again, she knew she could walk. That was really one of the things that got me really mad for the people, like for her family members who saw that she knew that she can walk, and like they, and it's just like, wow, this whole house that they have built by the humanity for they had literally built a house so your chairs can get through the doors,
right?
For you to be able to get into the bathtub, a ramp to go down. Like it was just like, while Gigi didn't know a lot about her, about the extent of her mother's lies towards her illnesses. It's just the fact that you guys were in on the major lie, and that was the fact that you guys, like, you could walk. And I think that's one of the things that kind of gets me aggravated, because you could have told Aaliyah. You had a separate account, my good sis. You had a separate Facebook account my good sis. And you could have been like, look, Aaliyah, I don't want you to think that I'm lying to you. This is what's going on. Like, I could walk, but my mom, I'm scared to tell anybody else because something could probably happen to me if my mom gets wind of it or something like that. So it's like, in a way, I'm really not trying to place blame on anybody because the cards are dealt with. Like Dee Dee's dead. Gypsy is in prison. So is Nick. Like, everything already happened. But it just makes you think, like, dude, like, if you would probably told Aaliyah, maybe Dee Dee will probably be still alive today. Or maybe she'll be in prison herself, because maybe then later Gypsy, between the help of like Aaliyah and her family, and then Gypsy and then Nick, they will all like try to find a way to like let the police know, like, hey, this is what's popping, and then all the other lies would have come out.
I just wonder that if she did tell the police, like, if they would have been like, no, you're just a kid. Like, you don't know.
That's also another thing. That's also another thing that I think about too, because again, we don't know. Every police officer is different. As much as like people like to say that every police officer is different, and we don't know their thought process. Like, especially in that kind of profession. Like, I can imagine, like, as much as we try to say we're unbiased, we're not. There's a little bit of bias somewhere, and so like we don't know their thought process. But like I want to say that I probably think that if she would have gone to the police to say something, I believe that because she was sick, quote unquote sick, they would have probably believed her more so, because I know a lot of cases have been this, like, like somebody would like a kid would say something to an adult, and like an adult would report it and like whatever, and they'll be like, no, she's just a kid, and then 10 years later, the same evidence that, like, the same thing that the kid told the police officer or somebody of authority and was dismissed actually came to be. So like, I don't want to just say that only kids that are sick are believed. But I mean, this, again, the extent of these lies were so elaborate. That
crazy.
That I mean, like, any search can lead you pretty much to the truth. Like, if they really search, like, as much as Dee Dee said there was no,
they could have just walked in that house and saw.
Like, all the paperwork was missing, and like, because of Hurricane Katrina. Okay, are the doctors missing? Were the doctors? What doctors did you go to? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like eventually this is gonna, and it's not like this was like in the 80s or like, early 90s or it's not the 70s. This is like in the 2000s, where we're keeping meticulous paperwork, like records of paperwork. And so like, she died in 2015. 2015 wasn't that long ago. You know what I'm saying? So like, if this is going on for all of Gypsy's, like, for a long time at that point, for all of Gypsy's life, then you have to understand that, like, there was meticulous paperwork taken. Like, I was born in 93. There's a lot of paperwork from my first pediatrician to the last time I was like at a pediatrician or whatever, doctor I went to. So I can only imagine how much paperwork was actually missing. Because if you live in Louisiana, at that point, Hurricane Katrina hit, in what year was it?
2005.
Yeah.
05, right? Okay, so Katrina hit in 05. So like, the doctors, if you trace back, doctors there's gonna be some kind of paperwork, regardless of how much of the paper trail is missing from Katrina. There's gonna probably potentially be something still there, or doctors.
Well, to my understanding,
Sorry, that was a rant.
No, it's that's all. That's what this show is all about, right away. But the doctor, I believe, is Dr. Flasterstein, who was the one who first detected that something was amiss. He like looked back in Gypsy's files, and he noticed that a lot of these things that Dee Dee said were wrong had already been proven false by doctors. but she somehow was able to like manipulate medical records and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then she ended up getting a hold of Dr. Flasterstein's records.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went to go report it, everybody was like, yeah, they're not really going to believe you no matter what you tell them.
Right.
And with Dee Dee having his notes and his files in her possession, it was kind of like a lose-lose there.
She
Right.
really finessed, bro. She
Yeah,
finessing
like
everybody in their mom.
Better than Bruno Mars. Shit.
like,
No, and okay, and this is where because maybe I missed it in my notes and whatnot, but how did she manage to get all those medications for like the ones that she had to take home for Gypsy? Because did she finesse this for Gigi? I know I was trying not to say that because I don't want people are like, who the hell is Gigi? No, but I'm sorry, listeners at home. But yeah, no, like did she steal like a notepad, like like the
I would have
the doctor.
Yeah, I was just like the doctor's note, like the doctor's like legal prescription pad type thing.
I would assume so.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That means you have to learn how to write like a doctor. So gibberish for the most part.
Right, and then you just scribble.
Which
You just
unrelated,
scribble and be like, this is what he wants.
which unrelated, I've recently figured out why doctors' handwritings are so terrible like that. They spend so much time
because they go to school for 12 years and don't learn how to write.
It's that they spend so much time taking notes, and apparently medical school is like very, very fast paced, so you're always on the run. So they're just sitting here literally doing this the whole time, and they don't bother like proofreading and going back. So it's like they can read it, and so can the pharmacist somehow. But to us, it's like what the?
It's
fuck?
magic.
It really is, because I've only met like 3 doctors that have like perfect penmanship. There you go. Wow, words.
There we go.
So I was like, yeah, there we go, Jen. But no, yeah, the penmanship, yeah, it's wild. That's why I was just like, dang, I'm glad I don't want to become a doctor. Because I mean, my handwriting is nice, but I know throughout the years, if I was in medical school, I would not have good writing whatsoever. I'm gonna be like, look, I will abbreviate everything. I was like, here's the thing, and I'm like, these pharmacists better know what I'm saying. It's
like,
about
this
to be
is just kanji from Japan. It's fine. You can read it.
You got it. It's cool. It is what it is. But yeah, no. Back to the case at hand. I don't know. There's just so much, like there's only so many ways we can like fabricate this damn, like not fabricate, but like we can come up with like, I don't know. At this point, yeah, because it's all theories at this point. Like everything's happened. Right. Gigi is out here about to be on parole, and poor
She's
Nick
about to have a new life. She's gonna go by Gigi now.
Right. The sentencing, I don't know. Again.
Yeah, like poor Nick will never see the light of day again.
And right.
Gigi, and she's about to get out and like just continue life.
Right. Yeah, Gigi's gonna get to continue life, and I'm thinking to myself, like, there's also but like that's the thing. The sentencing is weird. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to school for this, so I want to read the actual case if it's like public, it's usually public record, but I really want to sit down and read the case and really sit down and read why the courts came up with all of these, and the prosecution and the defense and all that.
If you do, we will definitely come back to it in another episode.
Right.
I totally will. You know what? I'm actually gonna look into it, and then
if you find it, send it to me, because that would be
same.
Oh yeah, of course.
Legit the coolest thing ever.
This is a case I could probably do a whole season of this podcast about.
Well, yeah, because you can have just literally like a 5 episodes like podcast and breaking down everything from the backgrounds of both, just Dee Dee's background alone.
Right.
It's like a one whole solid episode. And then you're going into then Gigi and Dee Dee. I'm mad I'm calling her Gigi. And then,
I'm not mad that you're calling her that.
I'm good with Gigi.
She's gonna get
because I gotta see.
She's gonna get out and be like, "My new name is Gigi. Don't worry."
But no, I gotta figure out like how they labeled the case for the Gypsy for both Gypsy, for Gypsy and whatnot, because sometimes it's people versus Blanchard,
right,
or the what is it, Missouri versus Blanchard, or so
Missouri versus blah 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 blah.
Right. So I have to figure out. Let me see. So I'm going to look into that, and then if you want to do like
like a follow
like an update type of thing, follow up, like here's a follow up of this episode and the actual court case, and I'll like link it to you guys because I like reading these things.
Definitely. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I've been also thinking about doing like following Snapped episodes and doing podcast on those Snapped episodes and following that. And so I'm just like, could I do like I could have like seasons forever because there's like 17 million seasons of Snapped.
Exactly.
Like there's a case that I was thinking about doing was the one where there was two, like the girl got stabbed and they were trying to blame the girl that stabbed her and the boyfriend that was. It's fucked up.
I don't blame you. That's crazy. Yeah. That's wild as hell.
Yeah, she stabbed her with a steak knife. Like, I'm like, how the hell are you? And she's saying, I didn't plan it. She was stalking me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you had a steak knife in your back pocket. That's not something everybody walks around with.
I'm saying, like, girl, who you lying to? Because it ain't me.
Right.
I've been watching Snap. Sometimes I'll be watching these episodes of Snap, and I'm like, yeah, girl. I know what you did it. Good for you. I'll be like, good for you, girl. You done did that, and you should have stabbed. You would have done it some more. People are gonna, and the people, I'm pretty sure the people at home are gonna be like, oh, this girl's a murderer, and I'm gonna be like, well, I am studying murder. I'm studying murder technique.
The perfect one.
Like people, like I tell people all the time, I'm just like, yeah. They're like, oh, what are you going to school for? And I'm like, murder. And they're like, what? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to school. And they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to school learning the techniques of how people kill. And they're like, that doesn't make it any better. And I'm like, I'm going for forensics. And then I finally get down to it. I was like, I'm going for like crime scene investigation forensics. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Why did you say like that before? And I'm like, why not?
Because it wasn't as creepy as the stuff I said before.
Because it doesn't sound as badass as murder.
Right. And before, like I've jumped around and like with thoughts. I'm like, I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I snipped that in the butt. I was like, ooh, no. Not saying anything wrong about lawyers. It's just for me, everything will be pro bono, and I will definitely be a civil rights lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I'll be broke. And then not in this economy. But then I also, right. And then I was like, okay. Then I decided that I was like, okay, I definitely want to become like a coroner or something like that. And then I was like, wait, maybe I want to be a mortician. I've been through it all. I still kind of want to be a mortician. Not gonna lie to you, but that school's expensive. So
yeah,
that school's expensive, and I'm like, I don't got money unless somebody was trying to like GoFundMe and just be my only sole.
You should ask a bunch of the sugar daddies on Instagram to.
I wasn't trying to say that. I wasn't trying to make this. I wasn't trying to say this on this podcast, but like, I mean, like on this episode, like I was like, damn, let me try to keep this civil, but like,
if
y'all got money and y'all want to like, I was like, if y'all got money and y'all want to like, give money to the struggling college student who really should not be working 4 jobs while she in school. Holler at me. I can give you some besitos. I can give you some besitos, and I can send you cute pics of my face. That's about it. Get y'all heads out, y'all asses, y'all nasties. But anyway, back to murder.
Back to murder.
Back to murder.
It's
I feel bad for everybody who listens to the show sometimes because I'm just like,
they know what they signed up for.
Exactly.
But do they? Sometimes they'd be like, all right, we're gonna get something serious. You start off serious and then it's like and then you're listening about J.K. Rowling, she ain't shit. And then we're like, yeah, she ain't shit.
Like I thought it was supposed to be about a murder podcast. Like you're so confusing.
Like I want to do a murder podcast too, don't get me wrong, but like at the same time I'm just like, I just have to get stuff and I'm poor, so like I just prefer to be on other friends' stuff as I am. This is the most this is really exciting. I like being on podcasts, even though I look like crap most of the time, but that's cool.
Shut up.
No, you're fine.
Gang.
Gang.
I don't know any gang signs, but these are my gang signs.
I just do this.
I love you in sign language and okay. Gang. Love, okay. Yo, I have a picture when I'm going like this with the freaking 3D glasses but the lenses are cut out. And it ain't me. Anyway, you can take this out of the fucking edit. This is wild.
I am not taking this out.
Every time we're like, yeah, you're gonna take it out, and then we listen to the episode, we're just like, he didn't do it.
I did not.
Yeah, he didn't.
I did it.
I left it in.
I left it in.
Long story short, again, Nick is currently serving a sentence of a term of natural life plus 25 years, and Gypsy should be up for parole.
Wow.
Yeah, life plus 25 years. And Gypsy is eligible for parole in about 3.5 years. And more than likely, she's going to get out.
More than likely.
And she's going to get out. She's going to live the life that was pretty much like taken from her. And right. I mean, as far as Dee Dee Blanchard, like I said, I think it's either a case of an angry child just wanting to be free, but it could, depending on how you look at it, it could also be karma just coming back.
I mean, I'm all for karma. Like, I feel like she didn't deserve it, right? Because no one really deserves to be murdered unless they're like really, really horrible people. Yeah. But there are actions that you take in your life that this is what was bound to happen eventually. You were going to piss somebody off to the point that they were going to be like, oh, no, we knocking you out. Like,
no, you're right.
Yep. But I thank you guys for joining me yet again. This was fun.
Yep. I stayed up late for you guys. Usually
I appreciate that.
Pass the hell out.
Yeah, this is it for me too. I'm calling it a night.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock and I'm like ready to like.
I keep forgetting that you guys are on East Coast time.
Yeah, EST baby. Well, I'm on CPT, but
I don't even know what that is, Jordan.
The people at home might. Someone fill you in.
I'm tired of
I'm
you, bro.
Scared. I'm not going to ask.
Well, I thank you guys for joining me, and I thank you guys at home for joining me for another wild episode of the Latino Nerd. I am the Latino Nerd. I will catch you on the next one, and as always, keep it nerdy.